Hi everybody, welcome to a Professor Rocket toy review. I am your host, Professor Rocket, Nostalgiologist, and today we have Earthrise Leader Class Optimus Prime. I had originally intended this to be an unboxing slash review, but I couldn't. I was too damn impatient to wait for shooting this video. I wanted to get this thing out and play with it because it just looked so impressive from all the previews I'd seen. Um, this is a leader class, so it's running around $50, which is I'm going to say it now. Spoiler alert, is a little pricey for what came out of the box because this is basically a Voyager class figure with a big plastic cube that unfolds on the back. Again, that's just sort of how the economics of the day are as far as toys go. And I guess that's just how it's going to be from now on. But yeah, these leader class figures have sort of shrunk over time and basically just become Voyagers with extra accessories. And in this case, it's kind of just a blocky accessory. So it's all about how good this figure is. And first off, we're going to compare it to another recent Optimus Prime who had a trailer, and that is the Studio Series Leader Class Optimus Prime. I don't typically collect a lot of the movie series stuff, but I do collect Optimuses, just about every Optimus that comes out, in fact. And even this one's trailer is a little undersized, probably. Yeah, especially in height. But it's a lot more proportional than the Earthrise one. But you know, this has all got to fit in a leader class box. And you know, it's all about keeping that price point down these days, apparently, even though it just keeps rising. So stubby little trailer, kind of disappointing. If we're going to pay $50, I'd like to have gotten at least a more proportional trailer. And as far as how he stacks up against Siege Optimus Prime, and this by the way has been the standard for the last couple of years. So it's basically, is it better than Siege? It's definitely different. It does some things better, but I'm gonna spoiler alert. There's still things I like better about the Siege figure, and you'll see to it. You'll see what when we get to it. They're about the same size. The Siege figure is a little bit longer, which is a bit odd because Earthrise Optimus is actually a little taller once he's transformed into robot mode. But it's a pretty insignificant size difference. So Siege was almost the perfect Optimus. In fact, I think if it had had an Earth mode, I would just go ahead and call it the perfect Optimus. So I was really excited when Earthrise looked like just a slightly improved version of it. That's the question. Is it an improved version? Let's just go ahead and dive into the transformation, and you'll see some of the things I like better and some of the things I like better about Earthrise and some of the things I like better about Siege. And Siege was interesting in that it had a really clean robot mode. As you can see here, because basically all his truck bits, well, the front of his truck bits ended up folded up on this flap on his back. And a lot of people, this upset a lot of people. It didn't bother me because it's a nice, clean-looking backpack just from outside view. It's not until you open it up and see all the bits that's basically just the front end of a truck folded up. And I didn't care much for this kibble hanging off the arm. But all in all, this was a great figure. So Earthrise Optimus is basically supposed to be the replacement for this figure. So let's see how it measures up. And let's see. The best place to start with the transformation is probably untabbing these little panels here. And these little panels here. And then this whole front section sort of folds outward. Oh, maybe we need to. Okay. So this unpegs and flips up. And this then does basically the same thing but opposite of the Siege figure. And that here you've got all the parts of the front of the truck, and they fold up into the inside of the chest instead of onto the back of the figure. And then now that we've got that opened up, I'm going to pull the arms out to the side. Very reminiscent of the original Optimus Prime from 1984. Open this little compartment on his back. Flip out the head. And close up the back compartment where the head flipped out of. Then the truck front, there's like a little tab joint here in the center. And click it and fold it down. And then basically all the front of the truck ends up folded up inside the upper chest. And you have the false grill abs from inside. Then you rotate him at the hip, and then rather at the waist. Then on the back, you've got these two little panels that form his lower back and sides. And from here you fold up the front bumper and wheels, and the wheels fold in. And his legs just bend down. These little bits fold up to form his kneecap. His feet fold out. Legs separate. Forearms open. Fists flip out. Right, and let's see here. There you have Optimus in robot mode. And he is pretty dead on for his cartoon appearance. Maybe these pecs are a little more sticky outy than I would care for. The back's very clean. These wheels aren't something that's normally depicted in his animation model, but some compromises have to be made somewhere. And of course we do have a nice little gimmick of the opening chest with the matrix inside. We do have moving fingers, although they move, the four fingers move together as a unit instead of individual articulation. We got thigh swivel, knee bend, we got ankle rocker, we got pretty much all the arm articulation, wrist articulation. Turns a little bit at the waist. The bumper and wheels on the back kind of get in the way a little bit, but it gives him sort of a realistic range of articulation, even if it's not complete. Of course, head's on a ball joint, so we get plenty of articulation there. So yeah, there's Optimus, pretty much dead ringer for his animation model. Then we get his wonderful storage cube here, and transform it. Pretty simplistic. It opens up, and it's got the little sort of repair robot that folds out. And you can display him with the repair bay laying flat like it usually was in the G1 toy product images, or you can stand it up and have him stand in the bay. Again, this is kind of an anemic accessory to justify the increased price point. This is basically a Voyager class figure, which would normally run around $30 with extra accessories. But these accessories aren't as good as like the armor that comes with Shockwave, or the trailer / armor that comes with Siege Ultra Magnus. So accessory wise, a little bit of a disappointment. And I did forget to mention one thing. He does come with his blaster rifle, which is sort of modeled after the original toy version, or the fat version of the toy version. It does fold up, and it can store on Optimus's back in both the robot and truck mode. And now we're going to do some comparisons with Optimuses from recent years. Here is Classics Optimus Prime, which was basically the standard that every Optimus Prime needed to strive for about 10 years. I loved this Prime at the time, but even when it came out, I knew there were just too many bits hanging off of him, with basically like a quarter of a truck hanging off the side of his arms. Very cool, updated, modernized, sort of science fiction-y look here. Doesn't really pull it off when it comes to trying to look like the animation model, though. Here was last year's Siege Voyager class Optimus Prime. And this is really the figure to beat. There's a lot of debate which one of these is the better figure, and it's pretty tough. I will give it to Earthrise just slightly, but one thing does bother me, and that is the lankiness of the figure. Just because the waists are done so differently, it seems like his legs, he's just more legged proportionally. Even though when you put them side by side, it doesn't look like there's much difference. It's just the way that like this crotch piece extends down, and this one doesn't. It just sort of gives it more realistic proportions, I guess, if they're realistic proportions for giant robots. This one, I just like the sort of flatter, smoother look of the chest. But this one, Earthrise is, more of a dead-on representation of the animation model. So if that's what you're looking for, this is probably the best bet outside of the Masterpiece line. Both with just like the look of the animation model and just the cleverness of the transformation, doing the best job hiding vehicle parts in robot mode and vice versa. So I would say, if I had to rate these, like I would probably rate Siege like an 8.5 out of 10, and Earthrise like a 9 out of 10. So they're really close. Yeah, I wouldn't want to not have both these in my collection, because I really think this one is probably actually the better G1 robot mode. But with the Cybertronian vehicle mode, it's not quite the perfect classic Optimus Prime. Also, these bits hanging off the forearms are kind of annoying. So Earthrise, an improvement, yes, not a huge one. Also, I wanted to point out something very odd about these figures. They have the same shins and feet and knees. And that was the first thing I noticed when I saw pictures of Earthrise Optimus, is that I thought it was just going to be a heavy retool of the Siege Optimus. But it turns out these are like the only parts in common. And they end up actually flipped relative in vehicle mode, with the this hole here ends up in the center on Siege's transformation, like almost like it's supposed to be a dock for a trailer, but then it ends up on the outside edge of the Earthrise Optimus. And even in the back you can see there's this little hinge mechanism, and you can still see the remnants of the hinge, but on the Siege figure, this bit folded out and then the wheels folded in, but then the lower leg rotated around to form the outside of the vehicle mode. Very interesting that they reused that bit of the mold and nothing else, and just completely, they used the same parts but re-engineered it to where it doesn't even serve the same function in the transformation. So just thought I would throw in also Siege Leader Class Optimus. Well, just the core robot mode, which is also basically just a Voyager. This was a heavy homage to the Cybertron / Galaxy Force Optimus. So it's not really even trying to emulate G1 Optimus's animation model. But just wanted to mainly see a size comparison. And finally, here is Earthrise Starscream. Because I wanted you to see Optimus with another Earthrise figure and another Classics redo. And these two right here are pretty much amazing. They've almost boiled these two figures down to perfection. I can't actually see myself buying a lot more versions of Optimus and Starscream, even though so far I have bought virtually every version that they have put out, at least in the United States. This Starscream, spoiler alert for when I do a Starscream review, is basically what I imagine the perfect Starscream toy being. So like since I was like 4 years old and complaining about the parts forming forearms. Yes, even back then. This is pretty much everything I ever wanted out of a Starscream figure, and they basically just upscaled classic Starscream and sort of improved on some things as far as like how the arms fold up and how the legs fold up. But for the most part, it's just an upscaled version of that toy. And I can't really imagine, and honestly, I like this better than the Masterpiece Starscream. It just looks, the proportions are more correct. It's not irritatingly difficult to transform, and I kind of feel the same way about this Optimus. Actually, this Optimus is almost borderline too complex for its size. That nifty little thing with the whole front end of the truck folding up into the chest, it's almost like Masterpiece level complexity. Almost too complex for this size, but not quite. Not quite. So, yeah, is this almost the end of my collecting? Now that I have basically the perfect Optimus? No. But I do think my focus is going to shift away from main characters, like getting all the new redone versions of main characters, and go more towards getting like the more obscure characters, like the Snapdragon, Runabout, and Runamuck. I'll be getting the Titan class Scorponok, of course, because that's pretty much the Titan class I've been waiting for. But yeah, this is this my favorite Optimus Prime toy? No. I will still say that Generation 2 Laser Optimus Prime is my favorite. Is this my favorite Generation style Optimus Prime? Yes. For now. And I don't... Hasbro's really going to have to make a major breakthrough, something really innovative and amazing, to make me want to upgrade Optimuses again. This is, as far as I'm concerned, pretty much the perfect Optimus. Epilogue. I started wondering, since the configuration of the reuse of the shins and the how they are configured in vehicle mode ended up being different. So if this was in the center on Siege Optimus, I decided to see if the trailer fit Siege Optimus as well, and it did. So I kind of wonder if they had this gimmick planned out that far back. The gimmick being the trailer, rather. So it does fit. Seems even more stubby, though, I think, with the longer vehicle mode of the Siege Optimus. So, yeah, not great, but, you know, it works. It's compatible. It almost makes me wonder if this wasn't an actual planned obsolescence thing. Because, you know, initially we got this figure with the crappy paint job. The crappy battle damage paint job. Which I've actually removed a lot of on this copy of the figure. Then we got the cool animation style repaint of it. And then we got the Earthrise Optimus, which is basically an upgraded / more G1 accurate version. With a lot of similar but different engineering. Anyway, Earthrise still the best. The trailer's kind of crappy, and thus makes the whole figure a little overpriced. Wish this was just a $30 Voyager without the trailer. Or had a better trailer.